article, I'm not even sure if it's your article this week in the Observer about TJH and what's going on with the new leg of the highway. The fares are finally coming. The deal has been negotiated. The contract is signed, and we're looking at sometime in August to start paying that fare on the new leg. What's the latest that you can tell us? What update do you have?
So that story last week, Wednesday, was with my editor. I contributed a little bit, but yeah, here with that story, and basically the almost 1 year of free toll is sadly coming to an end. So for those who don't know what I'm talking about, Phase 1C was completed by NROC, which is the largest shareholder in Trans Jamaica Highway last year. However, there's a process that had to occur before Trans Jamaica could actually get the right to operate that highway, right? So basically, 20 kilometers of road, uh, Trans Jamaica excused the right of first refusal, and now they are paying $20.3 million US to get the right to operate that highway to 2036. And they said they should bring in about $9 million worth of revenue into next year based on their projections. Based on a conservative 42% gross profit before tax margin and a 25% tax rate, that's about $2.84 million in additional net profit each year to the bottom line. So within probably less than a decade, they effectively earn back all of the amount they'd have spent to acquire the right to operate that leg. But there's a
That's a lot of money. Okay, get to your but before I interject. But what now?
I was going to point out that the big but right there is there's a potential limit upside factor, uh, upside formula that is there. We haven't got any additional details there. So TJ might potentially pay a little bit more to, I believe it's NROC, based on the performance of the highway at some point in time. I haven't got additional context there, but it's still a good thing for TJH because for them, they're the, they're the one of the few providers of services in Jamaica that can consistently raise their prices and people don't have a reason to switch to another alternative. So JPS, for example, NWC, the most can do with JPS is go solar, but there are limits to that. With Trans Jamaican Highway, you're going to go to the old road to get to Portmore, or you're going to despite traffic and just reach home in probably a shorter period of time on the highway. And this is just the reality that make Trans Jamaica Highway a pretty interesting stock and company. The traffic on the highways is increasing every year. Portmore, so they currently operate Portmore Vineyards, that's close to Old Harbor, Maypen, and the Spanish Town Toll Plaza. And they generated about $75 million US last year in revenue from those particular facilities. So that translates to about 11, 12 billion J worth of revenue, and they did about 23 million USD worth of net profit, which is just a little bit over 3.7 billion plus. This is just me the rough math in the back of my head, but it's a pretty interesting development. Last year they said they extended their first refusal, highway open, and we just heard infinitum of these extensions, extension to December, extension to March, extension to July, continued freeness, and that freeness is over. So too bad on you, Kalila. You have to pay some toll now. Kalila. Hmm.
Hi, David. Kalila will be back with you shortly.
Understood. So I'm just going to, so if anybody has any questions, you kind of say in the chat in the meantime. What I'll just continue on Trans Jamaican Highway. So right now they're developing different interchange lanes to act as what we would call a feeder to their business. Well, also addressing the fact that some of the older routes that persons use to get to their homes are just saturated with traffic. So the first major interchange lane is to Freetown, and that's about $330 million J that they're spending to actually develop that interchange lane, just a little over $2 million US. And even with respect to the concession that they're paying for right now with GOJ, they're using their own internal funds. So it's not like TJH is taking out new debt to actually acquire this new leg or develop this new interchange lane. So this is just showing that Trans Jamaican Highway is a strong business in terms of generating cash, alongside the fact that the most that they have to do is maintain upkeep of the roadways for the highway. Otherwise, there's not much, downside to their business model. And the thing is, if there are other developments within the region that they can actually bid on and operate, they would have already had that Jamaican experience going for at least 2 decades plus as a strong talking point in negotiations. So at AGM, because I went to it, by the way, Ivan Anderson, who is the managing director, said that Trans Jamaican Highway is not looking to do semi-annual dividends. So from the last, call it what, about 4 years post listing, Trans Jamaican Highway, sorry, 3 years post 2020, 21, 22, 23, 4 years post listing, Trans Jamaican Highway, has been paying an annual dividend every November. Now they're planning to do a semi-annual structure, so they did their first declaration or record date in March and paid in April, and they're likely going to do the next payment in November as usual again. And the current dividend payments for Trans Jamaican Highway shareholders is still among one of the highest in the markets. And even for IPO holders, they're just sitting on some extremely great, yearly income. So even with the 18-cent dividend paid last November relative to $1.41, that's just a little over 10% in a dividend yield. And if Trans Jamaica Highway keeps up a similar payment come November relative to dividend paid back in April, you're going to be talking about easily probably 16 or 20% dividend yield for those who bought in 2020 and continue to accumulate even up to late March 2023. They were trading relatively below the IPO price. And Natoya, I do not see Trans American Highway going back to $2 that easily. It will be a very hard press. That's one of the most liquid stocks on the JSC, and the perspective of persons can go in $1 million into that stock and it have easy access to liquidate it or sell it if they need to get cash easily. So if you look at that stock, you're probably seeing like 5 million, 6 million, or even 2 million shares traded every day. And even at $3, it's $60 million trading. So that $2 timeline, is far gone, and we're in a relatively depressed environment as it relates to the perspective of interest rates with the interest rates impacting the stock market. So let us say when rates do come down, heading potentially in 2025, you might just see Trans Jamaican Highway go even higher as persons look to secure asset classes in equities and other higher risk or yielding assets that will generate better risk-adjusted returns. So in the case of Trans Jamaica, you're probably talking about a $4 stock by next year, because when the dividend was announced and getting closer to the actual record date back in March 2024 this year, they went to say 370 to 380. So $2, that is a 2023 dream. We have to live in the present of a 2024. Welcome back, Kalila.
Oh, thanks. Oh, that was a first for me. Complete internet lock off just now, but luckily it came back. I was trying to log in on my phone, and right when I got through it, it came back on the computer. So thanks for holding over, David. I missed most of what you said, but I can I can surmise what you probably said, having to do with dividends and TJH already being a great dividend paying company, and all the implications of this new leg of the highway. So we have some comments here. I think I heard you taking some other comments. O'Shane says toll road blocks progress considering that the government cannot upgrade competing roads?
Well, I didn't get the privilege of looking at the documents for inspection back in TJH's 2020 IPO, because if we were able to actually review the amended concession agreement, there probably was some adjustment to that right, to limit the government's ability to do some of those things. Because remember, the government did expand Mandela Highway, and people are still taking Palmer Tool Highway, and they actually put it in their prospectus that, because they're expanding the Mandela Highway, they got more traffic during that period. And even after the normalization of traffic after the expansion, they still had their highest record in terms of traffic or volume on the highway last year. More than 24 million vehicles passed their toll booths last year. And this is before Mandeville and Maypen to Williamsfield, Manchester, which is the new phase of the highway. So,
right, which is like 5 minutes away from Mandeville. Sean wants to know, did they mention anything about damages to structure at the AGM?
I really and truly missed that part. There were 3 AGMs that day. I went to all 3, one virtual, one in person, then TJH last. So I didn't get to catch the initial phase. I'm not sure if anybody actually asked that question. But if there was any serious structural damage, they'd have been likely required to make some level of disclosure. And I'm sure persons would have shared pictures if there were any issues with the highway or just the toll booths. So probably need to just ask Ivan Anderson at the earnings call or something else in terms of what happened post burial.
So Garvin is responding. They said that there was no damage from burial. He said the question was asked. So Garvin was attending that briefing. Moncherie wants to know, why is it that the TJH USD stock does not perform as well as the Jamaican dollar stock?
So 2 sides to that coin, right? So if you actually equate the TJH US dollar stock price to the Jamaican dollar stock price, it's effectively trading at the same price. What do I mean by that? So let's break it down, keep it simple, right? So 157 is the current FX rate. If you multiply that by 2, or just say 2 cents, you get about $3.10. That's a similar price that you're seeing the US dollar stock trading at. So you have this case of a mirroring situation whereby persons who are buying TJH, are probably trading it on the US dollar side at a similar price relative to the Jamaican dollar side. So on one hand, the US dollar stock itself has lower growth than the Jamaican dollar side, but at the end of the day, you're still getting the same Jamaican dollar dividends in turn. So you also have to account for the fact that other persons probably don't know about the US dollar market. And for some brokers, it's a little bit more juggling of hoops to get that US dollar cash to trade in the market. So those are probably some of the factors that are impacting the stock itself on the US dollar side.
All right. Thanks, David. Anything else that you want to mention re TJH?
Nothing else until my mind. Trans Jamaica Highway. Just remember that next week is end of month. That is for Wednesday, and August 1, August 6th are public holidays, so there will be no trading on the Jamaica Stock Exchange on those days. Just a reminder, so people don't wake up saying, where's the stock market, why isn't it open? But stay safe. Hope everybody who was probably impacted by burial is recovering in some capacity, and just stay safe. Still a very active.
I still don't have light in Mandeville.
And hurricane season end until November 30, so I have to wish everybody all the best, because burial barely grazed the south coast and there's so much damage.
I see one more question coming in, and it comes from Robert, who wants to know, does TJH have to pay the full 20 million US concession for Williamsfield at once or over several years?
Well, that part hasn't been disclosed, and likely will come out in the third quarter report or disclosure, as probably seen by the cash flow statement. But at best guess, it's like they're going to pay the full amount upfront. And one reminder is that they say that they're going to segregate the phase 1C asset in a separate company. So a separate subsidiary of TJH actually operates in phase 1C, and it's likely that, they're probably going to pay all that amount upfront. But let us see what the Q3 report, which comes up by November 14, says. If you see a cash outflow for the concession asset or a particular variance, you can probably determine if the full amount was paid as a cash outflow for the right of that new leg of the highway.
All right. Thanks again, David. Appreciate it.